Class 9 students, this is the continuation part of the chapter cellular respiration. In my previous video I discussed with you the concept of cellular respiration, the difference between combustion respiration and also the types of cellular respiration. I hope you have understood whatever I have discussed till now in this chapter. Next I am going to get into the details of the different steps of cellular respiration, and as I have told you that cellular respiration takes place in 3 different steps. The first one is glycolysis, second is Krebs cycle, and the third one is electron transport system. So we are going to learn about each of these steps in details. Firstly, talking about glycolysis. Okay, now glycolysis, you will find in page number 77 a few important information is there about glycolysis. It is a first stage of glucose oxidation in which 2 molecules of pyruvic acid are formed from 1 molecule of glucose. We will see that what is formed from what. The process is common in all organisms. The process is very important information. The process is also known as EMP pathway. EMP pathway. Okay. The names EMP comes from M3 German scientists Emden, Meyerhoff and Pernas. They first discovered this pathway of glycolysis, and from their names this pathway is also named as EMP pathway. Okay, now let's move on to the next page. There you will find the site of glycolysis. Where does it take place? It takes place in the cytoplasm of a cell. And next we will start with the steps or the pathway of glycolysis. For that I will show you the picture or the pathway of glycolysis, and then it will be easier for me to explain and also for you to understand. Okay, so let's start. So students, this is the pathway of glycolysis. As you can see, this pathway is almost similar to that in your book, and I have also given a pathway and means in the online class, and that one only you will write in the examination. Okay, so I have used this picture to explain the pathway of glycolysis to you all. Now the term glycolysis means breakdown of glucose. The word lysis means breakdown, and glyco means of glucose. Okay, now so obviously the process will start with glucose. Next you see that from glucose here it is forming glucose 6-phosphate. Okay, from glucose here at the top you can see glucose, then it is getting transferred into glucose 6-phosphate. Now how is that happening? You can see that ATP is entering in the pathway. So by addition of one phosphate group is added in the 6th position, and thus glucose is getting transferred into glucose 6-phosphate. Okay, now by some chemical or structural changes within glucose 6-phosphate, it is getting transferred or changed into fructose 6-phosphate. Then another addition of ATP in the first position of the fructose is making fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Bisphosphate meaning 2 phosphate groups are there. Okay, so this is how glucose is changing to fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Now from fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, by the action of an enzyme, here you will find the names of different enzymes within each step, but for class 9 you don't have to learn the names of the enzymes. This will be there in your syllabus when you go to class 11 science. So there you will learn the proper pathway with all the enzymes and everything, but for now you just learn the steps and where ATP and NADP and all these are added. So learn those things only. Okay, now under the influence of an enzyme, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate produces 2 products. As you can see, this is number 1, dihydroxyacetone phosphate. In short we can also call it as DHAP, dihydroxyacetone phosphate. Okay, and the other product, the second product, from fructose 1,6 bisphosphate is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, or also it can be called as 3-phosphoglyceraldehyde. Both are same, just the position of the different parts of the name are different, right? Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate or 3-phosphoglyceraldehyde, both are same if you minutely notice the name, but the position of phosphate of glyceraldehyde, all the position of these parts of this name changes. Okay, now fructose 1,6 bisphosphate produces two products, which are again which can be, as you can see that within this arrow there are arrows on both sides, that means they are recyclable. From DHAP glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate can be formed and vice versa. Okay, now the pathway follows from glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Nothing continues after the production of dihydroxyacetone phosphate. From that product nothing else is produced, but from glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate the pathway continues. Okay, so what happens by the addition of NADH plus glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate changes to 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate glycerate or glyceric acid. Okay, so here one phosphate was group was already there in the third position and another one is added in the first position, so it is 1,3-bisphosphoglyceric acid or glycerate. Next, by addition of another ADP and means ADP is entering and one phosphate group is removed. Okay, so from 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate it is becoming 3-phosphoglycerate. That means the first position 1 is removed and thus ADP plus that phosphate group is making ATP. Clear? So this is how we get 3-phosphoglycerate or 3-phosphoglyceric acid. Glyceric acid can be called as glycerate. Okay, next from 3-phosphoglycerate the phosphate group changes its position and it is known as 2-phosphoglycerate or 2-phosphoglyceric acid. And next we have phosphenyl pyruvate and then pyruvate. Okay, the pyruvate is pyruvic acid, which is the end product of this glycolysis pathway. Okay, so the glycolysis takes place within the cytoplasm of the cell, and these are the different steps of glycolysis, which is very very important for you. And from one molecule of glucose, 2 molecules of pyruvic acid are formed. So here from one molecule of glucose, 2 molecules of pyruvic acid are formed. This pathway of glycolysis is very very important to you all. You have to learn the pathway very well, learn the one that I have made you write in the online class. There everything means what you need to write, what additions you need to make, everything is written there. So from that you learn, and I hope you have understood the pathway. Okay, thank you.